Hello Resi Thrivers, welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video we're talking about age, getting older. Now don't be rude in the comment section, because whether you like it or not, age will catch up with you. I hear sometimes people in their 20s, in their teenage years, even in their 30s, they laugh at people who are older, people like myself. But just bear in mind that one day it'll catch up with you. So anyway, in this video I am talking about the realities of getting older, and in this situation I'm talking about middle ages, people in my age range. Now I remember when I moved to the UK in my 20s, there were certain things I was focusing more on, because they're general things that pretty much everyone focuses on when they relocate. For example, you want to find a job, a good job, you want to go to university, things like that, things to improve yourself. Most of us focus on those things regardless of age. But when I came in my 20s, I wanted to find a nice job, I wanted to go to uni, and back then as well, I could afford to work even 2 jobs at one point. I wanted it all. I wanted to improve myself. But besides that, there were other things as well I was focusing more on. As someone who was in their 20s, I was worried about things like my looks. I was worried a lot about the clothes that I wore. I'm not saying I'm no longer worried about things like that. Of course, you must maintain yourself. That's a given. But I'm talking about things that were at the forefront of my life back then. Despite getting an education, despite running after, a career. But as I've gotten older, my priorities have changed completely. I worry about certain things more now than I worry about my looks, about my clothes, about even going out, just having a good time. I no longer worry about things like that. And this is a discussion. I want us to talk about these things. If you're of a certain age, let's say from 40 going upwards, because those, I regard those as middle ages. I mean, depending on which book you read or which site you read, some people say middle age starts at 30. I mean, that's too early, that's too young as far as I'm concerned. I reckon it starts at 40. From 40 going upwards, according to my opinion, this is the time when you really need to be serious about your life. I'm not saying that don't be serious about your life in your teens, in your 20s, in your 30s. No, but I'm saying that certain things should take priority. So in this video, I want to run through some of the things that have taken over my priorities since I turned a certain age. Things that are now at the forefront. It's no longer my looks, it's no longer my clothes. As I said, I still like to maintain myself. Of course, I have to care about, let me say I care about those things, but those are not my priorities at the moment. So since I turned a certain age, I started worrying more about my health. My health has become a priority, because as you get older, this is when things start popping up. I mean, you might look young, because I know, as they say, black don't crack. I know I look 21, but seriously, you might look young, you might be slim, you might look young, but you will feel your age. You will feel your age. Because as well, I remember when I came to this country, the way I used to run around connecting shifts, I would come from one shift, maybe run to another shift. I mean, those were the days. But right now, I have slowed down. I have slowed down. I no longer have the same kind of energy that I had back then. So these are some of the challenges that come with age, and also in terms of health as well. When you live abroad and you reach a certain age, especially if you're someone like myself, you grew up in Zimbabwe, that is where you were born, and you relocated at a certain age. A person like me, I'm starting to think about, okay, my retirement. Am I going to spend the rest of my years in this country? Do I really want to go into a nursing home? I mean, I'm not saying, that's like the normal course of action, but these things just come to your mind as you get older. You start to worry about things like that, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be a burden to your kids. You want to make sure that you have things set up so as to be independent, because the goal is to be independent. That's why we worry about our health, because you don't want to reach 65 and you can hardly do much because your health has deteriorated so much. This is why it is crucial to look after yourself when you're young. Looking after your health starts at a young age. It starts with the things you put in your body, what you eat, your lifestyle diet, exercise, rest, and so on. I mean, I've made several videos, health videos. You can watch those videos. But what I'm saying is, as you get older, your health and your well-being come to the forefront. It becomes a priority. You want to be reassured, or you want that reassurance that you'll be able to access healthcare, that you have a strong support system. Because let's face it, when you're old, you won't be able to do as many things for yourself or as many things in general as you did back then. So you want to have that strong support system. This is why it is important to cultivate strong relationships, your family, your friends, because those are the people who are going to be there when you need them the most. And building up on that, another thing as well that you start thinking about more and more as you get older, especially if you live abroad, is things like social isolation. Because let's face it, it's hard to make friends to begin with, especially when you relocate. It is going to take you a lot of time to make friends, if at all, because the way things are done, or the way we live in this country, I'll give reference to the UK because that's where I live. The way we live in this country is such that a lot of people are always working. There's little time to socialize. Most of the time that we spend socializing is online, but the internet is not real life. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, or X, YouTube, it's not real life. Real life is meeting people in real life, spending quality time together, going out for a coffee, going out for a meal, just spending time at home, laughing and joking and talking. That's real life. So as you get older, you start to realize that some things don't really matter. Some things are more important than others. And loneliness, the idea, thinking about the idea of being lonely in your old age, just sitting in front of the telly, watching EastEnders from morning till night time. The thought, yeah, just think about that. So these are things that you start to think about as you get older. Definitely, I've started to think about that. Of course, I'm not that old yet. I've just grown older, because loneliness and social isolation are things that are hard to deal with. If you're young, I mean, there is a chance there for you to make friends. You have plenty of time to meet new people, make friends, and you have the energy to move around meeting people. I'm not saying that I don't have the energy right now to do that, but I'm saying as you get older, you start to worry about things like that more and more, because you realize that at this age, people are set in their ways. I mean, we have developed our habits, and for you to meet someone that you actually gel with, someone you will get along with, someone who shares the same values and principles as you, that becomes harder as you get older. The same applies to when you want a relationship, a romantic relationship. Those things as well become more and more challenging as you get older, because as I said, people are set in their ways, because you don't want to just pick a friend. You want to pick a friend who is going to be good for you. Another worry as well as you get older is to do with financial uncertainty. You want to make sure that your finances are in order. Now, this is when things like pension, savings, what sort of plan have you made over the years? Have you been saving towards retirement? If you've just relocated to the United Kingdom and you've started work, if you're in your 30s, 40s, maybe you're still young in your 20s, these are things that are important to consider. Yes, in your 20s, when you're young, life is good. I mean, you're thinking, I have my whole life ahead of me. But take it from me, time flies. I mean, I feel as if the years have just flown by, just like that. So time flies. The time to start thinking about those things is the day you start that job. That's when you need to start planning towards your retirement. Do you have a pension? Are you on some sort of pension plan? Because at least you know you've got something. You have something to fall back on. And the same goes for your savings, because you want that financial stability. And as I said, that plan towards your retirement should start the day you start work. It doesn't matter whether you're in your 20s. You should start planning for the future. You can't start planning when you're in your 40s, in your 50s. Then you start panicking, because life is real. It's real out here. It's real. So yeah, these are the things that have taken priority. They've taken center stage in my mind. Another thing as well that becomes a worry as you get older is your aging parents. Because when you reach middle age, when you're in your 40s, in your 50s, it means that your parents have gotten much older as well. Because if your parent gave birth to you when they were in their 20s, let's say early 20s, by the time you reach 40, 50, they are in their 60s, 70s, maybe 80s. So you start to worry about them because they now have different needs. And especially if you live abroad and you have aging parents, this becomes a real worry. It's a challenge because your parents start to need more medical care, because I'm afraid that's just the circle of life. It's a natural progression of life. I remember when I did my training, we had this lecture called The Dying Body. I mean, it freaked me out. Basically, what I got from that lecture is that from the moment you're born, your body starts dying. That's when the clock starts ticking. I mean, that lecture, as much as it freaked me out, it taught me a very important lesson, which is every day counts. So aging, especially having aging parents back home, is a worry, because if you live abroad, you can't see them. You can't see what's going on. All you know is what they tell you when you phone them or when they phone you, because you want to be there to help them. You want to make sure that they're eating right, they're doing what they're supposed to do. You want to be there to monitor as a child who loves their parents. But guess what? Life does not always allow you to do that. So that is a real challenge, because the family dynamics are challenged, because on the one hand, you're worrying about yourself getting older, and on the other hand, you're worrying about your parents, and not just your parents, other family members as well, because you might be close to your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, and so on. So that is a real challenge. Another challenge as well that comes as you get older, things that you start to worry about, is to do with your own children as well. You start to think about, okay, how has raising my kids in a foreign land, how has that impacted my children's identity? You start to wonder how they see themselves, whether their identity has been affected or has been confused somehow. Because as far as I'm concerned, the way I look at it, yes, my daughter might have a British passport and she's British, she's proud to be British, but at the same time, at the heart of it, at the very core of her being, she's still a Zimbabwean, because I raised her that way. I've always tried to instill those values in her. So as I'm getting older and I'm thinking about, okay, I might want to go back and spend the rest of my days back home, you start to wonder, if you leave them, will they maintain or will they remember what you've taught them about their culture? Will they have the same type of connection that you have with your homeland? I mean, it's a real conundrum as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how others see this. I'm interested to hear what you think about this situation. Is this something that you worry about as parents? I certainly think about it, because personally I think that there is need to balance integration and retaining one's identity. There's need to strike that balance. It is important. And I did a video talking about how to settle in, or how to make the UK feel like home. And in that video, I also mentioned this, the need to strike that balance. So you can check that video out and tell me what you think. So yeah, this is what I had for you in this video. As always, I hope you found it useful. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.